Right, I'm just going to try and do some explanations on what we intended to do with the balancing lakes off Queen Elizabeth Road, the bar pool. You'll see we've already got some balancing lakes, but our intention was to create a further balancing lake, which would not only add to the natural beauty of what we've already got, but also protect Nuneaton town centre from flooding forever. However, this was scrapped by the previous Tory administration, so we've reintroduced it, and this would have also gave the Sea Cadets somewhere to have a base and to progress further into the future. We'll talk about this later, and we'll also talk about the letters that have been wrote to the leader of Warwickshire County Council, and the letter that he has wrote back saying that he has no intention of going ahead with our plans. So we'll talk about that later after we've reviewed some further footage of the balancing lakes. Right, so behind me you'll see some of the balancing lake that we already have here off Queen Elizabeth Road. Now these take some of the water off the new development in Camp Hill, and these protect Nuneaton town centre from flooding. However, the plans were to build a further balancing lake which would definitely cope with all the water off Camp Hill and protect Nuneaton town centre forever. However, the previous Tory administration, led by Councillor Wilson, said that it wasn't worth it and it was too much money. And a letter here from the leader of Warwickshire County Council, Councillor George Finch, again says that it's too expensive, and basically the largest town in Warwickshire, Nuneaton, is not worth it. Well, your local Labour group think you are worth it, and we'll be putting these letters on with this video. So to us, your local Labour group, we think the residents of this borough, and certainly the residents of Nuneaton town centre and further afield, are worth every penny. Right, behind me you'll see the area where the other balancing lake would have gone, which would have been the continuation of the balancing lakes that we already have. Now, our plans, your local Labour group's plans, were to continue this, to pick up the plans that the previous administration scrapped, and the Warwickshire County Council are saying is too expensive. Now, this would have served as a dual purpose thing, where it would not only protect Nuneaton town centre from flooding, would have taken all the water off the new development in Camp Hill, but it would have also served for something that we wanted to see the Sea Cadets get involved in. They could have put in for funding, so it wouldn't have cost the taxpayer everything. The Sea Cadets would have put in for funding and helped us out, and they could have used this as their base to bring people on to get them ready for the Royal Navy in the future. This would have been your local Labour group looking to the future and building on what we already have.
So you've heard Chris talking about this and about some letters and correspondence with Warwickshire County Council. In fact, the first letter was from me, and I'll just read it out. It's not very long. I'm writing following a resolution of Cabinet on the 22nd of April 2026, which we requested that we explore with Warwickshire County Council the feasibility of revisiting the previously proposed flood alleviation attenuation lake scheme within the borough. Although this scheme was considered jointly by Warwickshire County Council and Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council several years ago, it was not pursued at the time. Cabinet believes it merits further consideration, particularly given the potential to contribute to flood risk reduction whilst also providing wider community benefits. Cabinet was also keen to understand whether any revised approach could support recreational and outdoor water use, including opportunities for youth organisations such as the Sea Cadets and Sea Scouts, and whether alignment with Camp Hill or other funding streams might be possible. I would welcome engagement to consider the feasibility of this in more detail, and that I wrote to Councillor Finch while I was still leader of the council at the end of April. Well, the further engagement came back from Councillor Finch on the 7th of May, just basically saying, not a chance. And I think that is a real opportunity missed, and just shows that Warwickshire and Councillor Finch are not bothered about the residents of Nuneaton.